I was in the garage at midnight, my shirt soaked through with sweat and motor oil, hands greasy from tuning that old generator I use for side gigs, when my phone buzzed on the workbench. It was her. Just. I need to talk. I wiped my palm on my jeans and felt a dull knot twist in my gut, like the time our oldest fell off his bike and I had to stitch him up in the kitchen. Concrete, physical panic. I straightened and followed the beam of my flashlight down the hallway. The house was quiet, the kids were asleep. She was sitting at the kitchen table, rims of her eyes pink, 2 empty coffee mugs between us. I recognized that look, the same one from the night she called to say she liked a crush at work. I sat opposite her, breath catching. My heart pounded so hard I felt it in my earlobes. I braced one hand on the table, fingertips scraping the wood, like an anchor. "There's something I have to tell you," she began, voice small. She sounded like the kid I once coached in basketball, apologizing before she even missed the shot. I nodded. "Go on," I said, watching her stare at her coffee. "I'm pregnant," she said, quick, like ripping off a bandage. "And it's not yours." Time froze. My vision tunneled. I felt cold metal behind my ribs. Concrete panic turned to ice in my veins. I placed my forearm on the table, wrist flexing as I gripped the edge. I thought, here comes the crack. I let out a slow breath, despising how my chest shook. Backstory isn't needed. I know you don't want a list of. We met here, we got married there. Just know I've been married to this woman for 9 years, adopted her son when he was 4, raised him since he was 1.5. I've changed diapers at 2 a.m., cured scraped knees with kisses, coached soccer for them, taken both to every doctor's appointment. I've built a side business. Truth is, that business was my lifeline when my day job vanished. I've paid 60% of the bills, kept the roof over our kids' heads, and still thought we were a team. But right now, I was in the kitchen at 2 a.m., hearing her say she cheated, she's expecting another man's baby, and I fucking needed to process that. I pushed back my chair, nails scraping the floor. "Explain," I said. "Plain. No melodrama. Just words." She rubbed her bare arms as if cold. "I met him 6 months ago at a bar. Didn't mean for it to happen. I was lonely, things changed, I don't know. I slept with him twice. This baby, it lines up." It clicked, the week she went to that work trip out west. The same week she reconnected with an old ex over text. The week she claimed she was at her friend's house and stayed late. Those nights I picked the kids up, came home from the warehouse job at 10 p.m., and found her asleep on the couch. I never suspected. I trusted her. I felt my hands go limp on the table. I could taste blood, dry, metallic. My mind raced through every late-night text thread I'd ignored. The way her thumb hovered over her phone during movies. The time she fell asleep at her coworker's place. I should have seen it. My chest burned. I stood and retreated to the hallway, breathing shallow. My pulse hammered in my throat like it would burst. I felt sick, a low churning in my stomach, sweat on my back despite the cool tile under my feet. I came back, calmer. I sat across from her, voice low. "So you've known for a while?" She nodded, tears spilling down. "I didn't want to tell you. Then I was scared." I shut my eyes. If I exploded, it would be worse. Better to stay measured. I drew air in slowly. "Fine," I said. "Let's talk about consequences." She flinched. "I'm sorry," she whispered. I looked at a crack in the table. Gas stove light reflected off her tear tracks. "You broke this marriage," I said. No sugarcoating. "You broke our trust. You decided you wanted someone else more than you wanted me or the kids. Now you have a baby from him. That's your body, your choice, keep it or not. But don't expect me to stay the same man if it stays." She burst out crying, burying her face in her hands. I kept still. I didn't soften. That's my responsibility, to set boundaries without letting her guilt trip me. A few days later, after work, I spoke to the kids. 7 and 11, They noticed Mom's mood swings, the tension when she stormed out of the house at odd hours. I crouched to their level in the living room. Nothing you did caused this, I told them. My voice cracked. I wiped my hand across my mouth. Dad loves you both, no matter what. We'll get through this. They nodded wide-eyed. Their small shoulders trembled. I swallowed, feeling a lump up in my throat, anger, sadness, disappointment all tangled into one. I forced composure. Gripping their hands, I felt the weight of being protector, my role unwavering. That night, I went to my buddy Greg's garage. He owns an auto body shop a few miles away. We dropped our troubles over cold beers. He leaned back, hat tilted, watched me sip. Man, he said, I'm sorry. She did this to you. I took a slow sip, tasted hops. I gotta figure out what to do. We've got 2 kids, a mortgage, a half-built side business that can't just die. My jaw clenched. If I leave, I lose everything: house, business, time with the kids. If I stay, I'm raising another man's baby with the woman who stabbed me in the back. Greg nodded. You gotta trust your gut. You're torn, yeah, but look out for you and those kids. She can't keep dragging you around. That's her pattern: use people, bail, come back. You know it better than most. His words hit like a hammer. I felt a flash of clarity. I'd let her shift blame onto me, claim I wasn't around enough. I didn't help, I was too focused on my business. Not fair. I recognized the manipulation. I was re-exhuming every late bill she blamed on me, every time she said I was cold because I wouldn't discuss a TV show. I'd missed the goalposts moving mid-game. 2 days later, I came home to find her on the couch, phone to her ear. I heard, I don't care, we're doing this now. And I realized it was Fred, the coworker who'd first sparked her crush. I stomped down the hallway, tone flat. Who's that? She froze, phone dropping. It's my boss. Work stuff. Bullshit. My blood went hot. I walked in, phone in hand. The screen lit up with Fred's name. I showed her. She looked away. I took a breath, noticing the tension coil in my shoulders, the way my heartbeat pulsated in my ears. I felt anger, yes, but also pity. You're still playing games, I said. I'm not your default. I left the room, the screen fading behind me. I didn't yell. I didn't hit. I just walked away. Predictable rage avoided, boundaries kept. I chose self-preservation without apology. At the end of that week, she wanted to talk. Like adults. We sat at the table again, kids at a sleepover with my sister. I took out printed emails, hotel reservations she'd booked with Fred, texts arranging late-night meetups, even messages from Ryan, that random guy she hooked up with on her West Coast trip. I laid them out. This list is every time you lied, every time you tried to hide it. I'm not your fool. We're done. Her eyes flashed, and I recognized the pattern. When cornered, she'd gaslight me, make me feel like I was the unstable one. You're making me out to be the villain, she spat. I let her. She needed to sink in her own words. I stood, reaching into my pocket for the paperwork I'd gotten from the lawyer: separation agreement, child custody forms. Under pressure, I'd started looking into our options, figuring out how to keep my business intact, what to do about the mortgage, how to shield the kids from this collapse. I'd crunched numbers at 3 a.m. under the kitchen light, tracking expenses, anticipating legal fees. Decision-making under pressure was second nature. I didn't want it, but it sharpened me. I said, You had your shot at honesty. You chose these lies. I pushed the papers toward her. Sign this. 50-50 on custody for the kids. No support for your unborn. I won't be raising him. My business stays mine. You know the drill. She recoiled. You can't go back on wanting another baby. You owe me that. I let my voice go flat. I owe you nothing. Especially not another child after this circus. My kids come first. I can't be on your hook, paying for a life that wasn't mine to begin with. She shrieked, slammed fists on the table. I tightened my jaw. My palms itched, I clenched them into fists but didn't strike. Instead, I pulled my arm back, heart pumping so hard I felt my collarbone throb. I said, "Enough." That was it, no rage, no sobbing. I'd pressed my boundary, and I stayed in control. I spent the next week sleeping on the couch at my buddy's place. Nights, I'd feel the hollow ache in my chest, like when the kids stayed with her, and I'd come home to an empty house. My appetite vanished. At work, I'd stare at the truck engine, hands shaking with tension. I forced myself to eat, to train, lifting weights until my arms burned, until sweat poured down, and my mind went blank. Physical stress became a release valve. Back at the lawyer's office, I dropped the signed separation papers. She'd refused to sign, so they'll serve her next week. I handed over a disk drive with copies of all the texts, bank statements showing how she spent our joint income on hotel rooms instead of groceries. I told the lawyer, "I want everything above board. No surprises. I want a clean break once we finalize custody." That was me practicing financial responsibility, protecting my assets from my kids and me. A week later, I told her through a text, "I'm moving out on Friday. Help me pack. Let's split the furniture. I'll take the garage's fixtures. Security deposit for my new apartment is covered." I gave her 2 days' notice, short but fair. I wouldn't let more of my time and energy drain away. Friday morning, I loaded the U-Haul. She stood at the door, kids crying, my 7-year-old weeping because Dad's leaving. I knelt, hugged him, felt his knees dig into mine. I whispered, "I'm always your dad. Nothing changes that." His little body shook against me. I closed my eyes, tasting the sting of tears I refused to let fall. I let out a slow breath, channeling CLAR. "I'm doing this so I can be a better dad to you, without a toxic mess upstairs." My 11-year-old wrapped my leg. "Will we still play basketball on Saturdays?" he asked. I nodded. "Every Saturday. Unless I'm overseas, but I'll FaceTime you." I forced a grin, though my teeth ached. As I climbed into the truck, I felt a rush of determination. I refused to be a doormat anymore. Every mile of that drive, I recited budgets in my head: rent, utilities, lawyer fees, daycare. Every decision was methodical, part blue-collar pragmatist, part analytical type. I'd rebuild. That night, I set up my new apartment, a one-bedroom with a corner cleared for my workbench. The garage stuff would have to wait. I texted Greg. "Got a roof over my head. Junker fridge hums. Kids' pictures on the fridge." He replied, "Good, man. Now focus on you." I lay on the futon mattress, duvet pulled up to my chest, feeling the weight of the ceiling above. Pain and relief tangled inside me. I felt emptiness where her betrayal used to live, replaced by a steely resolve. I wouldn't drown in this. I would keep my business, slow but steady, pay rent, save a little each month until I could afford a real place for my kids and me. No fantasies, every dollar accounted for. 2 weeks later, she tried to guilt-trip me over text. "You're ruining the family," she wrote. I stared at my phone for a long moment, the flicker of that old love I once had. I pictured her sobbing to her coworkers, playing the victim. I thought of my son's tear-stained face, my daughter's confusion. I typed, "I'm doing what's right for us. I won't be manipulated." Then I deleted the draft and switched off notifications. I didn't need that noise. On Saturday morning, I got a video call from my 9-year-old. He bounced his basketball on the court behind him. I smiled, felt my chest warm. "Hey champ," I said. "Ready for practice?" He nodded, mouth full of cereal. "Dad, I missed you." "I miss you too," I said. "Now let's work on that dribble." Seeing him, I felt every part of this worth it. No matter how tight money gets, no matter how much I'll sleep on the couch or pick up extra shifts, I'll be there for him. I'll keep my word. He'll see his dad is steady, dependable, not the kind who crumbles under a lie. 2 months later, I ran into her at our old neighborhood store. She had bags of groceries, hair tied back, tired eyes. I nodded. She looked at me, mouth twisting. I said, "Hey, kids are good?" She shrugged. "Yeah. They miss you." I held my gaze. "I make sure they know I'm here. Plan to come by Thursday." I didn't need to add. "For practice." She budged. "Okay." I turned and left. I felt sunlight hit my face, cool air in my lungs. The world didn't fall apart. It moved on. I had a sense of peace I hadn't known in months, a steady beat in my chest, like drums in the garage back at 2 a.m. But this time, it was a promise, not panic. I'm 31. I lost a wife I thought I knew, got divorced, kept my business, and proved my kids come first. I sleep on my own couch, budget every penny, and still coach Saturday ball. Some mornings, soreness in my back reminds me of all-night shifts on the generator. My hands, callous from wrenches and late-night painting, still shake when I think of her betrayal. But I've reclaimed my life. I trust myself again, my gut, my judgment, my boundaries. She'll face her own consequences. She'll lose respect among friends, end up juggling childcare and a father who's disengaged. No one will pity her long. I won't pray for her to fail, but I won't pick up the pieces for her either. I'll let her live with the results of her choices. As for me, I work on rebuilding, rent, bills, penciled-in cartoons on the calendar for the kids' weekends, a nightly routine of hot coffee, numbers in a ledger, and building something from nothing in my corner of the garage. I call it my therapy, fixing engines, welding shelves, writing invoices, and watching my account balance inch up. I'm done giving her control. I'm done chasing what was never mine. I've drawn my line in the sand, and I'm standing on my side, head up, shoulders squared, ready to be the man my kids can count on, no matter what.